Look, let's do 5 minutes on Naby Keita because there's two trains of thought here, Paddy. I don't know if you've seen, but there's been links to Paris Saint-Germain for 50 million euro, or there's been talk of renewing his contract. Now, I have to admit, 50 million euro, I'd think about it. I would at this point. I didn't think we'd get near that type of money back. That's about what, 41, 42 million pound with a year to go. I think I'd take it, Paddy. And me and you have been people who've seen the best in Naby and always sang his praises and defended him. But I take it, man, if that was on the table right now.
Yeah, listen, I like Naby. I've been, advocating a lot from this season, but I would agree that for that price, with what time's left on his contract, I'm afraid it's au revoir. It would be a shame that he'd leave us with his last action being that fucking outrageous outside of the foot shot into fucking Rosie in the
bad.
dying moments of a Champions League
With
final.
10 yards of space in front of him.
I mean, he's not. I'm not blaming him, but I just don't. I would love to know what his thought process behind that was. I really would.
Ironically, every other player didn't get a chance to take a touch throughout the entire game. Every time Salah took a touch, or they were closed down and blocked within a second, and that ball dropped to Naby, and he could have made himself an espresso, and he still would have had time to shoot. But yeah, look, that aside, what are you saying, Chris? 50 million euros on the table. Are you selling?
I'll drive him to the airport myself, and I can't even drive. I love Naby. I think he's class, right? 50 million quid.
We're just taking him on a kamikaze mission a second ago to the airport, mate. You can't drive,
but 50 million quid, I'd probably sell him for 30, especially with a year left on his contract. I think he's got so much to offer, but yeah, for that money, you can't say no. With a year left on his deal, I think we could go out and get someone better for that, or at least someone who could be better than Naby. If we do keep him, though, I'm not going to complain. I think he's still got a lot to offer. I think he's such a polarizing player because some people come out and say he's the best thing since sliced bread. Other people think he's awful. I'm somewhere in the middle. Like I'm easy. What happens? But if it's 50 million quid, ta-ra, lad.
I think he's the best thing since sliced bread, but that bread has been ran under a tap and the bread is starting to fall apart. And I'm not so certain I want the sandwich.
It's true.
I do.
And it was the hype as well, man. We thought we were getting the best bread. It's just like normal bread, isn't it?
And here's another thing, Paddy. We're gonna have to give him a pay rise if he stays, because no player really signs for less money than they signed on for. Let's be honest. And I really, really wouldn't feel comfortable committing 4 or 5 years worth of upwards of 100 grand a week to a player who hasn't been able to get a consistent run for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one because I think he's been class this season. I really do. I really, really do. I think when he's been fit, I think he's always been kind of good. Apart from a couple of Madrid performances, maybe when Madrid's involved, any Madrid or in Madrid, just don't let him near the pitch because he has a weird hoodoo around anything to do with Madrid. But I think he's a great player. But unfortunately, for that price, I think you cut your losses and you say merci, au revoir.
He drops too many 9s out of 10s and then 4s out of 10s. There's no consistency with him. That's the thing. And there's no consistency of him being on the field either. I understand this season he's been better with injuries, but yeah, for that money, as Paddy said, ta-ra.
So we could sell Naby Keita. Milner still has no contract. He's out of contract at the end of the next month. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain looks like he's moving on if we can get the fee that we'd like from. Curtis Jones, we're still on the fence about will he fully blossom or, what's going on there because he hasn't really pushed on this season. Henderson, we'll all agree, has a role, but probably a more limited role moving forward. So we are then left with Thiago, who has injury concerns, but we all know is an amazing footballer. Fabinho, who's an amazing...
Apart from Didi Hamann. Didi Hamann doesn't think he's an amazing footballer.
Yeah, I've tried to avoid Didi Hamann slander because I always liked him, but it's getting tougher. I won't lie, it's getting tougher and tougher to defend some of the stuff I've seen from Didi. I guess my question is here, Paddy, we're again looking at weakening ourselves without going back in there and strengthening ourselves. And we're already short in midfield. So we probably need to get 2 midfielders minimum if we were considering letting Keita go. And we were struggling to come up with one name here between us.
Listen, regardless of the links, I do not see Naby leaving whatsoever. I don't see Klopp leaving. Klopp loves him. As you said, we need to keep reinforcing the squad and improving the squad, not depleting it and not just topping up what was already there. We need to keep adding and making it an obscene squad, because as you said, we're going to be competing on all fronts again. We're going to have a lot of games, so we need a big squad. So I wouldn't be in any rush selling Naby. You know, I don't think Klopp will be either ultimately, so I don't think we have to worry about that.
So Jude Bellingham, we all
right.
agree, but we all agree as well next summer is most likely the first chance anybody will get to get him out of Dortmund. Barella, Inter won't sell and would cost an ungodly amount of money. So we're kind of running low on, what about a couple of not immediately top name, but like Bissouma, Ericsson. I like
Christian
Ericsson on a
Norgard.
free, lads. I like Ericsson on a free. Not to be, nailed on every game, but I do like Ericsson. And if we're looking to bring in a 9, whoever that 9 might be, I mean, he's going to put it on his head, isn't he?
Wouldn't be against Ericsson at all. I think he's proven to the world and himself that he's fit to play, and he's still performing to an unbelievable standard. I think he will move. I think it would be smart for him to stay at Brentford though, and kind of try and catapult them towards Europe. Should they do some nice business, just to give himself the full season and suss things out, especially with the World Cup coming up for Denmark, which I'm pretty sure they're qualified for, right? Yeah, they are, surely.
Again, from Neil Jones here, it said, "I'd be surprised if Liverpool were to offer Bobby Firmino a big contract extension with his time as a regular starter coming to an end." I don't think that's really much of a surprise to any of us. It was just a matter of, would we let him run down, or would he leave this summer with a fee, I suppose. And now I would say certainly we probably can't be letting him go this summer. We have to let him run it down at this point.
I think it's very like choreographed. He will leave at the end of next season. I don't even see us offering in an extension at all. I think he'll be gone. It's one of those where it's just sort of like an end season. He'll be a good option off the bench, and then fair play to him again. Go somewhere else. But I think it's different. He is on a downward trajectory, definitely.
Yeah, he's run his course, and sometimes that's okay. It's natural. It's just life. People, he's ran his course. He's gone through the cycle. He's given us some unbelievable times. He's been an absolute phenomenal servant, but ultimately his time as a regular is over. It doesn't happen anymore. And for the sake of him and for his career, it's best to move on. I'd be in no rush to sell him, though. I'd hopefully let him run down his deal, keep him as an option for next year. Cup game kind of vibe off him too, especially with Mane leaving. Do you know what I mean? And obviously Carvalho and other players can learn off him when they come in. But I mean, Bobby, we've always said there was always something different about Bobby scoring. I was praying when he was brought on, he'd be the man to get the winner. He looked very lively, to be fair, in the Champions League. And we love Bobby, but his time at the club is coming to a natural conclusion. Natural conclusion.